On. Now let's bring in Mark Regev. He's the spokesman for the Israeli Prime Minister. And you're hearing that report, obviously, from Ben. And we have an eyewitness who is saying that the Israeli Defense Force has destroyed the house of that one suspect. What else can you tell us about this?
Well, obviously, it's a very difficult day for all Israelis. Those three teenagers were brutally murdered by Hamas. Their bodies were discovered. It's a difficult day for us all. I think all Israelis are uniting around the families of those three victims of terrorism. I think tomorrow we'll probably see the funerals, and once again, you're seeing in my country an outpouring of sympathy and compassion for the families of these three teenagers. Ultimately, we're talking about boys who were going home from high school who were killed by these Hamas terrorists. And if I can say something, I think this atrocity demonstrates clearly what Hamas is all about. Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization committed to a terror war against every Israeli civilian, man, woman, and as you can see in this example, children as well. And it's not by accident that Hamas is classified officially by the United States, by Canada, by the European Union, by Japan, by Australia, and by many others as a terrorist organization. These are, as my Prime Minister said, cold killers who have no scruples, no hesitation whatsoever in targeting children.
And Mark, I think certainly that isn't lost on many people when you're looking at these three young faces and the trauma certainly that many Israelis are feeling from their deaths. But I wonder, as Israel has looked, as we've seen this somewhat limited response at this point, how do you thread the needle between responding and also doing so in a way that doesn't provoke some sort of larger response that leads to even more people, including Israelis, including more young Israelis, losing their lives? Do you think that we will see a further military reaction here?
Well, I can tell you what our focus is at this very moment. It is to find the perpetrators of this atrocity and bring them to justice. Those directly involved in the kidnapping and the murder and their accomplices. We're also acting against the Hamas machine. Hamas says every Israeli civilian is a legitimate target, and so we're totally within our rights to protect our people by trying to mitigate the threat that Hamas poses. But the best thing that could happen now is for the international community to send an unequivocal message to the Palestinian leadership, to President Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, and say to him, you say you're a partner in peace. You say that you want reconciliation with the Israelis. Break your political alliance with Hamas. Break your pact with Hamas. You can't, on one hand, say that you're a partner in peace and at the same time embrace these terrorists from Hamas, these killers of children. It doesn't fit. It doesn't work.
This strike that we've seen, and we have an eyewitness who's seen it on one of the one of the Hamas members who's suspected of involvement in this. This isn't the only Hamas member who is a suspect. So I'm wondering, will there be more, Mark? Will we see a further reaction? Is this just the beginning?
The Palestinian people are not our enemies. On the contrary, we want to live in peace with our Palestinian neighbors. But there can be no doubt that Hamas, which is an extreme Islamist organization, is committed to an extreme agenda, a very radical agenda, a very nihilistic agenda, not dissimilar from Hezbollah in Lebanon or ISIS in Iraq. These groups want to kill. These groups want to murder. These groups believe that through this orgy of violence that they are somehow cleansing the world for their warped and extreme religious views. They have to be opposed. They are enemies of peace. They're enemies of humanity. They're enemies of the Palestinian people because they are, in many ways, putting the whole Palestinian people on the altar of their extremist agenda. And I think all people of goodwill can unite against these killers.
Mark Regev, thank you so much for being with us. We do appreciate it.